It's showtime. Here we are, 7 p.m. in state-controlled Britain, where we have a two-tier justice system, and I can't speak freely. But I can say something that won't get me banned or put in prison, and that's I have with me the UK, maybe the world's top nutritionist, Richard Smith. Hello, Richard.
Stephen, how are you, my friend?
Well, it's really good to have you back. We had Lee sit in for you, and Phil Scott both did sterling work. But it is, I'll make no bones about it, I did miss you, so it's good to have you back. And you've been speaking at the Tim Noakes Foundation in South Africa, so you had a good excuse.
Yeah, it was the World Nutrition Summit. Yeah, incredible event. It was an incredible honor to be speaking there. It was interesting when they opened the show. They went through speakers from all over the world and speakers who have spoken there before they went really big, in regards to mainstream. Zoe Harkoum, for example, Dr. Asim Malhotra, Dr. Fung, what's his first name? I can't remember.
Jason.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So all of these were speakers who had spoken at previous World Summit events who have gone on to big things. So yeah, we created some waves. We went against some of what was said from other speakers, and we can get into this if you like. But it's it was fantastic. We had some incredible speakers there, and I was incredibly honored to be a part of it, which I think was my best presentation to date. So I've been told. So I'll take that.
Yeah, take it. That's good. Most people that give you a compliment like that on the day, they're probably telling the truth, aren't they? So we start with a nice super chat. So that's really appreciated, Mark. And I know you've got an accompanying question, but you've got straight to the top of the queue, which is a great thing about the super chats, is it helps you get your question answered, but it helps us as well, because here we are. We're doing this free of charge on a Sunday night for an hour, and every little helps, as they say. So we'll go to your question first. I'm considering a sleep supplement which contains ashwagandha, L-theanine, chamomile, valerian root, peppermint, say it for me, Richard. Yeah, that's it. Just wondering on your opinions. Well, I'm sure Richard will go for the supplements, but I would just dial back. Make sure you've tried other things first that are not supplements, like changing your environment, for instance, not being on the iPad late at night. Richard and I have joke about this all the time. While we're talking about health, we're doing one of the things that's really unhealthy. Looking at screens, blue lights, native and non-native blue lights and all that. Make sure that your room is nice and dark, the right temperature, which does not mean really hot or really cold. So I would do that, and then obviously Richard will go through those. I'd imagine he's got a bit to say. If he hasn't on any one of them, I'll go on to that as well. But Richard, what do you think?
Yeah, look, this is a recurring subject. Something that I discussed with Eddie Goki. We recorded a podcast on Friday, I believe. Look, I'm not against plant compounds for medicinal purposes, because this is what they are. Plants are medicines. They do have a place. They can help with these things. But what I would say, Mark, is that all of these come with side effects, liver problems, blood pressure, so on and so forth. Is these things, they may work in the short term, but what I'd say in regards to this is the same thing I would say in regards to any medication. Address the root cause. What's causing your lack of sleep? And I think Stephen's hit the nail on the head. Try to get away from the blue light. Try to improve your circadian rhythm. Try to remove your mobile, your cell phone away from the bed. Take the TV out of the bedroom or leave it off. Lots of other things that we can do to balance this. I go through spells where I struggle to sleep. What I do is I'll take some MCT or exogenous ketones, because the ketone production will help. It'll help balance out glutamate and GABA. So it'll bring the glutamate to GABA ratio back into balance. What happens over time through stress in daily life, increased cortisol, what we know as insulin resistance, is something called glutamate excitotoxicity. And when this happens, it pulls tryptophan down the kynurenine pathway, which basically leaves less tryptophan for its conversion into serotonin and melatonin. So it can affect mood and sleep. That's the biggest lever I think we can pull. If you can address this first and go from there, add in supplements by all means, but just be mindful that they're not meant for consumption every day. We see these people who consume a supplement every night before bed, and I tried everything before carnivore. I tried CBD and all sorts of stuff, and they do work. They work until they don't work. They work until they stop working, and then we need to take more. And it comes back to what we keep saying in regards to turmeric and blocking inflammation and the NRF2 pathway, which we can get into. All of these benefits that we see with polyphenols and so on and so forth. If we fix and address all of those issues, we don't require any of these things. And if we do, they should be consumed in the short term. So just be mindful of that, Mark. But I would address all of the things that Stephen's mentioned first.
Yeah, good answer. Good to have you back. This one is from Agent 99. Hi guys, do you have any special advice for someone who needs to gain weight besides exercising and eating more? I mean, one thing that comes to my mind, and I just spoke to Richard about this when we spotted the question, was I often say to people, well, if you're struggling to eat enough, then don't drink with your meals. Don't have water, don't sip stuff, because that will give you a little bit more room to actually eat a bit more. So I'm sort of telling you to eat more, but the advice is to not drink while you're eating. So that's one of the things that I would look at. Did you have anything, Richard?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting question because we look at weight. What type of weight gain? Look, we can gain lean mass, as in muscle, or we can gain fat. We don't really want to be gaining fat. Many people that I work with think that they're too skinny because they've lost an awful lot of weight and they're too lean. We're designed to be lean or leanish. We're not meant to be, 20+% body fat. So we don't really want to be gaining. It's easy to gain fat. We can just change the source of the things that you're eating. From a caloric perspective, if you were to start eating more cheese and double cream and butter, for example, those odd chain fatty acids are eventually going to store and you'll gain weight. You could chuck in more keto friendly foods like bell peppers and cauliflower. And what else is there? Bell peppers, tomatoes, all very high in lectins. Nuts and seeds, very high in lectins. The lectins will bind to the insulin receptor and signal the body to store as much as 5 times more body fat than the caloric value itself. But ultimately, that's not what we want to do. So it's a tricky question. I mean, we can do those things to gain weight. If you wanted to allow the body to heal and repair more, you may have low stomach acidity or poor bile production. So potentially you could introduce more meals. So the same volume that you're eating currently, but split throughout the day. So the body's going to absorb more nutrients and that can lead to more building and repairing while not consuming more. But it's an interesting question. I'd like to know why you want to gain the weight, because if it is lean mass, then there are levers that we can pull in regards to doing so that are not going to involve excessively high levels of weight training. Meal timings and the amount of protein with fat can make a huge difference. But stomach acidity, I've noticed within the carnivore community, Steve, many people are suffering with low stomach acid because it's almost like we've gone full circle. We've gone through this spell of being ill, and we're constantly looking for optimal health. We introduce high levels of plants, and they're no good for the gut, and they cause damage. And the more plants that you've consumed, the longer that you've been consuming, the more damage that there is there to recover. But it can be done. So yeah, I'd like to know more in regards to the reason for the weight gain.
Excellent. I'm just thanking someone for a super chat. Let's put that up there. So Nancy, why is it not letting me show that? That's crazy. Let me just put that. There we go. Nancy. Hello, Nancy. And thank you for your feedback on introducing a little bit of ox bile, which that may come up and that may help other people, you see. Just thank you for the support. There's no particular question, but you are absolutely right in calibrating the timing of ox bile as a supplement can be very beneficial. It is often recommended for people to take it with a meal, but some people have twigged that if you take it an hour after you've eaten, it tends to be more effective. And that was interesting. So that's great. Sue, is saying, Rich recommended eating lean meat as well as fatty. Is it better to have a mixed meal of fatty food with lean, or keep them separate, different meals, or even on different days?
Brilliant question. Keep them separate. So have a fatty day and a lean day. You can do several fatty days, several lean days. I tend to do it intuitively too. So my routine is typically every Wednesday, I'll pick up lots of fatty meat from the butcher. Along with this week, I picked up some kidney. I usually get some liver, enough liver to last 4 or 5 days. Around 500 grams a week, give or take, I eat of liver. So that will last 4 or 5 days. The remaining days, I tend to eat lean. So I'll go for leaner cuts like skirt. I may throw some chicken in occasionally. Now and again, it'll be pork or leaner mince. The reason for this is that the animal contains both fatty cuts and lean cuts. And I think an evolutionarily appropriate lifestyle would contain both. We shouldn't fear fat. So there's this divide at the moment within the community. We've got some carnivores saying, you should be eating lean, and others saying that everything should be fatty. And look, the truth is somewhere in the middle. Like, we need the fatty meat, but also we would have consumed leaner cuts also. So, and I think it does depend on where you are. If your body needs healing, then you're going to require more fat. So this is why when we come into a ketogenic or carnivore way of living initially, I think the higher fat is going to help with this, with hormonal production. And that's fantastic. The leaner stuff tends to come in later down the line when the body's as healed and hormonal production is regulated, and when we're thriving, and then we're just looking to pull those additional levers for body composition and just to achieve those additional goals. So initially, I think it's important to put the fat in, but then I think it's also just as important to eat lean occasionally. So just mix it up, but I do it on separate days. I've put in kidney this week because when I was away, some incredible restaurants in South Africa, one of the restaurants called Bovine, to die for. Absolutely incredible. You want to see what we were eating. But it's all aged. All of the meats were aged. I threw some king prawns and other things in there, fish foods. And yeah, I suffered with a histamine response. So I came back and I've consumed an awful lot of kidney in the first couple of days, which is high in diamine oxidase, which can help with exogenous histamine. And obviously the beef liver then will allow me to increase SAM-E, which helps combat the histamine from an internal response, which is increasing or combating HNMT, which is histamine N-methyltransferase. We can get into that. But it's I mix it up, essentially. So I try to do it intuitively, but I mixed it. So you wouldn't have lean meats. And you can do, but for me, it works best to have higher fat days and lower fat days.
Yeah, and I think it's just a nicer experience, isn't it? Because, I mean, we had, there's a local carvery, and it's called the Cooper's. The Cooper's Choice is all different meats. And we had that today, but they were all pretty much fatty cuts, and it just went really well together. An aged beef, wonderful piece of lamb, and some pork, but it was more like the pork belly. It was beautiful. And maybe tomorrow, I don't know, I might have chicken, which is very lean. Anyway, great answer. Of course, it was a great answer. Good to have you back, like I say. So let's get to the next one, which is faith. You got to have faith. Do poor detox pathways affect histamine MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome? If you have MTHFR mutation, you are more likely. Are you more likely to have poor detox pathways? However, if your homocysteine, etc., are great, then is it an unlikely cause?
Yeah, brilliant question. So look, it's MTHFR. So let's get into this. So MTHFR, if we look at the folate cycle, we consume folate in the diet. Now, we're told that folate or good sources are cruciferous vegetables. Yes, they contain folate, but it's the wrong type. They're in the poly form and not the monoglutamate form. And then it'll go through a series of steps. So it will become dihydrofolate, tetrahydrofolate, and then methylene tetrahydrofolate. The methylene tetrahydrofolate is MTHFR. The MTHFR defect, or the gene, which there's two types, homozygous and heterozygous, so it basically means one or two, that can result in poor methylation because the folate cycle feeds the methionine cycle, and it can be affected by as much as 80%. So someone who is homozygous, for example, is only functioning at 20% capacity. But that MTHFR, methylene tetrahydrofolate, needs to be converted into the active form methylfolate via MTHFR, or methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase. And that's where the problem comes in. But that pathway is reliant on vitamin B2 and vitamin B3. So even if, Faith, you do have a defect or mutation with MTHFR, you can actually increase this by increasing your vitamin B2. So yes, I think it's going to cause, or it could be an issue. Homocysteine is a pretty good marker. I think if your folate cycle is feeding into the methionine cycle and homocysteine is at a good level, then I think that's a good sign. But nevertheless, I think it can cause issues. But you can negate this by adding in, which I'm sure you are, Fifth. You're probably already consuming something like beef liver. The problem is with B2 and B3. B3 and B2 are very low in plant compounds. Like I think you'd have to consume something like 2 to 3 kilograms. Is it 2 to 3 kilograms or 2 to 3 pounds? It's a lot of spinach, essentially. It's around 2 kilograms. I'm sure it's 1.5 to 2 kilograms of spinach to obtain enough B2. And you can't consume that every day because the oxalate, and again, 10 packs of spinach is likely to cause death. So that's how toxic these oxalates within spinach are. Beef is around 2 milligrams per 100 grams, which basically means unless you're consuming 1.5 kilos of beef each day, which we do. Many carnivores do achieve this, but it's a lot. Then you're not going to achieve and consume enough B2 to increase this slow methylation. But you can do it with beef liver or organ meats in general. Lamb liver is the one I go to, so that's what I collect every week. I keep saying beef, but it isn't. It's lamb. I get 500 grams of lamb liver, and I eat it over 3, 4, sometimes maybe 5 days. I'll just chuck X amount in from the butcher, and I'll consume that over several days. But if you are concerned, Faith, then just add in some beef liver or some lamb liver or some organ meats if you're not already doing that. That's going to increase the slow methylation, and it's going to help with it's going to help improve the detox pathways. Lamb liver, organ meats, well underrated. Many of us, in fact, I've never seen or had a client that is perfect when I look at their methylation report. Everybody seems to have issues, and the key to this is B vitamins. Essentially, all of the B vitamins, which we find in abundance in things like kidney and liver, especially. So, put in some liver.
Brilliant. I mean, B2 is in everything we're eating, isn't it? I mean, it's in egg yolks, and it's in lean beef and chicken breast and turkey, salmon, so you can get it if you really hate organ meats. But I think I just want to be clear on what Richard is saying. You get it in much bigger concentrations in the organ meats. So
100%.
Yeah, and it's probably, I would imagine, a little bit more bioavailable, but that's speculation.
The problem is that the amount, because it's 2 milligrams per 100 grams. We need somewhere between maybe 3 to 4 grams, I think it is, each day. So if we're looking at 2 milligrams per 100 grams, a kilo, is only going to give us 2. So 2 kilo is going to give us 4. And that's a lot. 1.5 to 2 kilos of beef, which is one of the best sources of B2. That's an awful lot of meat. And yes, you can do it. But what I tend to find is that women can't eat that much. I know many carnivores who are incredible eaters, but it's a lot. It's a lot to get in regularly. So the quick fix to this is to chuck some organ meats in, incredibly nutrient dense. And if you are not a lover of liver, is cook it and eat it with bacon. So if you can manage bacon, for some reason, I don't know why, the bacon neutralizes the taste. So if you can cope with bacon, and it's something that you haven't removed, then cook it with bacon and eat it with bacon.
Yeah, liver and bacon is fantastic, and the freshness of the liver makes a difference. And I thought the hack you were going to come up with is grinding it up and adding it to burger patties, but you could do that, or ground beef. But Deb has asked an excellent question and also given us a super chat, which is a follow-up. So thank you for the super chat. Deb is getting a half a bison soon. Can I eat bison, kidney and liver?
Can I eat bison?
Yeah.
Is that every day?
Well, it's very rich, isn't it? In A, B12, and yeah, yes. I would imagine if she's getting half a bison, it's going to be proportionate, isn't it?
100%. And that's the key. So when we look at influencers who have introduced carbohydrate, some of which were consuming high levels of organ meats, and these can be problematic due to copper toxicity. The key to this is offsetting it with the zinc in the muscle meat, because the zinc will bind to metallothionein on the copper and it will help balance this out. And that is the missing part to these influencers who have overconsumed organ meats. Organ meats are incredibly nutrient dense, but we don't want to overconsume. We want to consume as nature intended. We want to consume those organ meats in proportion to the muscle meat. So you can eat organ meats every day, but eat it proportionately in regards to the rest of the animal.
Yes, and yeah, that's what I was getting at. Just writing to Mr. Beaumont, I will say it as well. Yes, I'm looking forward to the carnivore stem enhance, and thank you for saying you'll get it through me, because I'm really excited about it. Anyway, right, let's move on, and it is the next question, which is, here we go. Thoughts. Yeah or no? Here, what are some symptoms you would experience if you have an intolerance to histamines? So if you think of runny noses, runny eyes, sneezing, itching, so anything that the body is doing to get rid of irritants is the main thing. Feeling a little bit groggy actually is another one. A little bit bunged up, as we say in the UK. What would you say, Richard?
Yeah, spot on. A runny nose is the big thing. Yeah, spots, skin conditions, rashes, aches and pains in joints, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I had a runny nose after South Africa due to the aged meats and the king prawns and the calamari, and which was fantastic, by the way. The bone broth and the bone marrow. So yeah, those are signs. You know, things like runny noses, itchy skin, spotty skin. I get them on my face. Other people get spots on their back, aches and pains and things in joints also. But easy way to combat this, DAO, diamine oxidase, which is found in kidney. So consume some kidney for a couple of days. You can get it as a supplement also, but it's not as good as eating the kidney itself. And again, if you do incorporate the kidney with some ox liver or some lamb liver, then we increase the B2, which allows us to increase the HNMT, histamine N-methyltransferase, or combat that by increasing SAMe. So we get it from the exogenous and the endogenous. So mix the organ meats for a couple of days and you should find everything will clear up.
Yeah, and Cami is saying she gets arrhythmias from histamines and it impacts her sleep as well. We were just talking about the major things, but yes, normally you would get those warning signs first, I think. But yeah, thank you for that feedback. Let's go to the next question, which I think is about sweeteners. You have to excuse me. It's just the software is not as good as it was. It used to be better, but they've improved it, obviously, so it's now worse to work with. Right, okay. Mr. Beaumont, thoughts on sugar/carb-free sweeteners and sauces, and also spices and herbs. Is the key just low carb, or is being clean as important?
Brilliant question. Look, this is dependent on your journey. So if you are new to improving your health, the two biggest things that you can do is removing or restricting grains and doing the same with the seed oils. Grains are very high in lectins. Lectins cause intestinal permeability, and healing the job is gut number one when it comes to improving health. Seed oils are very high in an oxidized omega-6 called linoleic acid, which can stay in the body and cause issues for as long as 2 years. In fact, they can stay in the body well beyond that, but they cause issues for as long as 2 years. So they're the biggest levers we can pull. Third on the list for me is carbohydrate or sugar. So that comes number 3. So now we've reduced the carbohydrate. And remember, all carb break down into sugar. Carbs is sugar. So we need to remember that. They are one and the same. By reducing carb, we're reducing sugar. Now we're improving what we know as insulin resistance. I'm not going to get into the technicalities about how insulin resistance doesn't really exist. But in the context as we understand it, that's the terminology I'm going to use today. So by doing that, you're going to be considerably fitter and healthier than you've ever been prior to this. Now, when I look back on my journey, and in fact, I'm going to share the screen with this because this is really important. We are in a community now which is incredibly dogmatic in regards to what is keto, what is carnivore, what is right and what is wrong. And the thing is, it's what is right for you, and it depends on where you are in your journey. And let me, if you'd indulge me, Steve, for 2 seconds, so I can just share this. And I think we should actually record this one day because it was I think it was my best presentation to date. But
will this is recorded, don't forget. So let's put that on the screen.
The whole presentation will take well over an hour. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
But let me get into this. So, and I think I may have shown this on the screen last time, but this is effectively my journey. Obviously the person in the picture is not me, but they look considerably better than I do. So, so look, this was my journey. I began my journey with low carb. I was low carb for many, many years, and I slowly gravitated towards a dirty keto lifestyle, which is effectively low carb, dirty keto lifestyle based on macronutrients. So effectively, you could still eat a piece of bread every day as long as it was less than 20 grams of carb. And I was thriving. And then I gravitated deeper towards standard keto, clean keto, strict, animal-based, so on and so forth. And now I'm pretty strict. Like I eat animal proteins and not a great deal else very often. If I do, I notice the effects because my body has now increased this early warning alarm systems. Now, when I was low carb, I was the healthiest and fittest that I'd ever been. When I was dirty keto, I was the healthiest and fittest that I'd ever been. When I was clean keto, I was the healthiest and fit. And you can see where I'm going with this. So it is very much a journey. So where's the question? Can we put the question back up again, Steve? Sorry.
Hang on. Let me just do that.
My point to this is consistency is key. Consistency is key. And if it takes, I can see it on the side there. So thoughts on sugar, low carb, free sweeteners. So look, in the beginning, I consumed low carb and I was consuming all sorts of swaps, keto bars, low carb breads, low carb wraps. I make all of these. I make them now and they are available on my website to purchase. I don't use them any longer because I'm deeper down my journey. I'm further on that train journey than the many people on the call. But there's certainly a place, and they saved me in the early days because they allowed me to maintain my journey. So I was swapping my sugar in my coffee for erythritol, for example. I was using other sweeteners like stevia, which don't elicit an insulin response. They add a sweet taste to my beverage, and they allowed me to maintain the journey. So there's certainly a place for these things. And I believe depending on your journey, let's get rid of it. Depending on your journey, they are beneficial. And Mr. Beaumont, feels so awfully official saying that, doesn't it? Look, it depends on your journey. If you're new to this, use all of the alternatives that you need to. I added herbs and spices to everything. I was using like sweet chili sauce instead of tomato sauce because of the lower carb content. All of these things are fantastic as long as they allow you to maintain the journey. Now, what somebody else will say, standing on the periphery, they're going to look in and say, that's not keto, that's not carnivore. Well, beep them politely because this is your journey. If it takes that little herb and spice or that low carb treat or that low carb bread wrap or keto bar, whatever it may be, if it takes that to allow you to maintain the journey, then that is a positive. When you were ready then you start to remove these compounds. And the deep, I'm over a decade into my journey. I use these things. I've used these sweeteners. I've used these replacements, and it's helped me no end. It's allowed me to get to where I am now. So this is very much a series of incremental changes. So my advice would be is, if that's what it takes to maintain the journey, as in low carb and as grain-free and as seed oil-free as possible, then keep them in. When you're ready, start to take them out.
That's brilliant. Yes. I think we do need to get that full presentation done. So let's just share the screen seconds, because I wanted to say to Faith, who's asked a couple of questions, that it's very kind of you to be part of our school community. And then I thought, well, some people might not know about the school community. Richard and I run this, and you can become a member. And it's great because you have a chance to ask questions, and you'll always get answers from a very knowledgeable bunch of people, actually, and myself and Richard occasionally. And there's also a classroom where you can do different courses. So how to be keto, how to be carnivore, things about thyroid, where there's a free ebook. All of them actually have free ebooks that you can download instantly. You haven't got to do anything once you're in the course. There's videos, things about fruits and veg, protein problem solving. Then when you get to level 8, you move up the levels by being more and more active in the school community. There are 3 of my books completely free to download. As well, free, you become a member, obviously, so it's included in that cost, put it that way. And the Fat Club there, which is nearly 60 days of every single day giving you some daily advice. And then the calendar will also show that we do loads of live question and answer sessions. So for instance, here we are over here. We did one at 7 o'clock. We've got another one at 8 o'clock, but that's only for the school community. So within 30 minutes, we'll be in the school community answering questions live. Then we also do one on a Monday for an hour. I do one on a Wednesday, and we also fit other ones in the time. But there's going to be at least 3 a week live question and answers. So if you want to join the school community, one would hope that Richard has put a link in the chat. If not, we will put a link in the chat.
I'm on it now.
Right, he's on it now, and I will get the next question up. You see, we're such a good team. We have another super chat. Mr. Beaumont is saying, thanks, guys. Let's put that up on the screen. Thank you so much. The support is really appreciated. And I think you're a big supporter of the community. I think we have interacted on Bart's channel when we did a live Q&A as well. So that name really does resonate with me. Right, let's get to the next question, which I will get you in a bit. That was Mr. Beaumont's question, wasn't it? That's by Terps. Oh, this is Faith. Yes, this is the whole point. If you're already eating quite a lot of beef liver one day and beef kidney the other, and alternating like this, and it's not helping with your histamine muscle activation syndrome issues, what would you recommend after that? Well, it could be a sulfur problem. I can never say it, Richard. What's the supplement? That's molybdenum or something?
Molybdenum.
That's the one. Yes. I can read but can't pronounce it. So
molybdenum is in the electrolytes. I think Faith might be consuming the KP electrolytes, but it's molybdenum.
All right, okay. And copper, you might not be having enough copper because that's required for DAO enzyme function, but also for many other things like thyroid and iron. And it's people seem to be scared of it. I think that might help. What else do you think, Richard? Could Faith be eating too many aged meats, too many aged cheeses?
So I don't think Faith is. Speaking with Faith during a consultation, I'm sure that she's no longer consuming that, but it may not be. It may not be a histamine problem. That's the other thing that we need to consider. There are tests that you can do. Obviously, there's a histamine test. There's oh my goodness, what's the other one? I'll find it.
Methylmalonic acid is a good one as well, because you might not be getting, you might have high levels of B12, but it's not getting into the tissue. So MMA test is really quite revealing, obviously related to methylation.
There's another two which, they escape my brain. I'll find them before we end the call, but you can get these tested, and that will definitively tell you if it is a histamine problem, because if it isn't, then it's a box ticked. But I know Faith is... she's been following the carnivore lifestyle for quite some time. I know she's very strict. and there's very, very little in there left that could be causing problems from what I can remember. But I will find those tests while you're reading out the next question.
Okay, right. Well, I think the next question is a bit technical as well, so you might need to have your wits about you. Here we go. Right. This is from Nuria, another person in school, so it's great to see you. Talking about histamine, is DAO the exogenous breakdown of histamine?
Yes.
Yes, it is, because it's breaking down outside the cell and in the tract. And so HMNT is the intracellular breakdown, meaning it's an endogenous pathway.
Yes.
Absolutely spot on.
Perfect.
Yeah. See,
Biochemist.
Yeah, you see, this is it. Being a member of school, you get to know these things.
So this is how DAO can help with this. So DAO basically helps with the exogenous sources. So if we look at, so the reason aged meats are problematic is that the histidine. So when we mince beef, for example, or we age the meats, bacteria feeds on the amino acid histidine, and this creates histamine, and then we consume them orally, and then they're in the body from an exogenous source, and we can help offset this with DAO, diamine oxidase, which is found in kidney, or we can take a supplement to do so. If the reaction is inside or intracellular or endogenous, then this is usually HNMT. So we need to increase SAMe in order to offset which is histamine N-methyltransferase, and we do that via B vitamins, essentially. So this is where liver comes in. So liver and kidney, two potent compounds to help us combat histamine intolerance. But what I do find is that the longer we live the journey, the more susceptible we come to these compounds. And it's not because living this way has made us intolerant. It's because we've recovered our early warning alarm systems. We've allowed the body to upregulate its ability to recognize a toxin. So when we put it in, we get these little warnings, if you like runny noses or itchy skin, because we're not designed to consume these compounds, in large doses. And most of the contributing factors are caused by plant compounds. And that should tell you everything that you need to know about plants.
April is saying, my husband and I consume a little raw frozen beef kidney to reduce the histamine reaction, and that works.
Perfect.
Which I think is really good, isn't it? There's ever such a lot of people recommending school in the chat, which is really good, isn't it? I like that. Thank you so much. What am I going to... sorry, the system is rubbish. Your tests, by the way, will you think of homocysteine?
No, it's homocysteine. So I know Faith has mentioned homocysteine. Her homocysteine levels are good. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't that one. It
genetic testing, was it?
No,
genetic testing.
It wasn't. It was. I'll find it, and I know Faith is a part of the school group. I'll bring it up in there. But it's it's something that I researched extensively a little while ago, because I'm a bit of a geek like that. But
was there an organic acid test in urine?
No.
Right. It's SAMe you can even test. You know that, don't you?
Yeah, it wasn't SAMe. Yeah, it was.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I can't remember. I'll.
Well, I'm keen to know now, because I don't want to know. I should know all these tests. So I'm DNA methylation analysis. Was it that?
No, it wasn't.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, I'm very interested to see what you come up with now. So let's go to the next.
Heparin and tryptase.
Aha. Okay.
Heparin and tryptase tests. I knew it was in there somewhere.
Have you had any clients do these tests?
No, I haven't. But you can, if you do both as well as histamine, then it can give you an indication of whether it's endogenous or exogenous, or whether it's histamine at all. But yeah, in the school community is amazing. There we are. Brilliant.
Yes. So I'm just showing people that I'm not lying about the amount of people saying how good his school is. There's absolutely loads of people saying it's really good. But yes, Mark Painter, thank you so much for a super sticker. So let's show that on the screen as well. That's really appreciated. The support is great. It really does make a look. Faith, I shall probably book in with you again, Richard. I have a lot of questions. So there you go.
Fantastic. Appreciate that. Look forward to chatting.
Right. And she's just following up on that. It's not the fave show, but it's just interesting. I recently read that creatine also helps with histamine issues. Good old creatine. Wish I could take it, but it always seems to make my blood sugar levels even lower.
Yeah, creatine. It's I've I've removed creatine recently as a test. So as you know, I'm a big fan of creatine for a number of reasons. Like I came down with a bout of migraines recently, and there are a number of contributing factors. The main contributing factor is to do with sodium and potassium. And I thought I'd nailed it. Calcium, a huge contributor for me also. It's another reason why I've reduced and removed eggs and cheese, for example. But I had a bout recently where creatine caused major issues. I've taken it out, and I haven't had a migraine since. And I've been in situations which, and I'm a big fan of creatine. I think it's an incredible compound. And interestingly, one of the talks at the World Nutrition Summit was from a migraine specialist. And she said everything that I agreed with in regards to sodium, potassium, and all of these other metrics. But she also said that creatine supplementation has been shown to improve. And that's the one thing that, in my own experience, didn't pan out. So I think that warrants further investigation. And it could be to do with increase in blood pressure potentially. So maybe I need to offset that further with more hydration and sodium. But yeah, it's a difficult one. So I'm a big fan of creatine, but I have taken it out over the last few weeks, and touch wood, migraine free.
Excellent. Yeah. So what would be the mechanism that creatine could give people a headache? Is it in supplement form, or is it also from the meat, do you think? What do you think?
Well, I consume between 1 kilo and 1.5 kilos of beef a day. So that's 5 to 7.5 grams of creatine. And I supplemented with 15 grams of creatine also every day. And from a training perspective, from a physique perspective, everything was fantastic. And it's as Micah says, that it fuels the PC system, the phosphocreatine. So as we reduce ATP to ADP, it replaces the phosphate. It adds volume to the muscle, so it pulls water into the muscle, which could be where the problem comes in. Taking the water potentially out of circulation and into the muscle could lead to some form of dehydration. So maybe that's the key there. But yeah, it certainly warrants further investigation, because I'd love to put it back in. It makes me feel fantastic apart from migraine.
Okay. Let's get to this question, which I don't really want to answer because it makes me quite angry. Not the questioner, by the way, but the fact that you have to answer this. What to do if the powers that be ban meat? Dear.
Well, yeah, it's scary. I mean, we talk about these hidden agendas and agenda. Interestingly, a couple of years ago, I was speaking to people about Agenda 2030, and it was deemed to be a conspiracy theory and so on and so forth. And now it's open, it's out there, and it's a real thing. And they've made it sound like it's all fantastic and it's all for the betterment of the world, and it is not. It's not. I'm not going to get into too much detail because I don't want to be banned again. But this is one of the things. Basically, we are told that these animals contribute to damage to the environment, and they do not, especially from a regenerative farming technique. In fact, they are carbon negative. They actually help improve and recycle the carbon. There's no new carbon created from a cow or any animal from that matter. And typically the people who are claiming this are taking plane flights all over the world, causing loads of issues to the environment. Anyway, I'm not going to get off on my on my high horse. But the thing is, it is a scary thought, because if meat is banned, then what do we do? Because meat is the single most nutrient dense compound on the planet. Red meat in particular is the only compound from the food side that has been shown to increase the length of the telomere. So the telomere are caps on the end of the chromosome. So if we were to reach into the cell, into the nucleus, and pull out your chromosomes, at the end of the chromosome, the X and Y chromosome, there's a cap. This is the telomere. And this shortens every time the cell divides. Red meat has been shown to increase this length, and this increase in telomere length is directly correlated with health and longevity. Ultimately, there's no profit in a healthy patient, and they want us to be unwell and not very healthy. So meat is the magic elixir, and you know, I spoke at a fantastic. In fact, Stephen and I both spoke there back in August, I think it was, Steve. Which one was that? That was oh my
Ancestral
goodness.
Health.
No,
Ancestral Health.
No, the one prior to that.
Great British Meetup.
That's the one. Great British Meetup. We spoke of that, and my takeaway from there was just eat meat. I think it was that event. Just eat meat, and that is literally the answer to all health and well-being. So, what do we do? I mean, look, you know, if you have the ability to have your own cattle, if you have, you know, the land in order to do so, then do that. But it's a worrying thought, and you know, if you've noticed, eggs keep increasing in price, beef keeps increasing in price, and the reason for this is that it is quite literally the magic elixir, isn't it? It contains every vitamin and mineral that we need, not just to survive but thrive. And in fact, if we have time, I want to show you a slide based on this. This is something I presented on also at the World Nutrition Summit. But it is a worrying thought. It is a worrying thought.
Yeah, and Mr. Beaumont there is saying the methane scam is scarily moronic. Absolutely true. Methane runs in a 12-year cycle. So there's no extra methane created whatsoever. And the BBC did a thing about the fact that trees are no longer able to soak up carbon dioxide. So all this rubbish about the climate change. Firstly, I mean, we know that historically the Earth was much warmer and it's also been much colder. In the 1970s, when I grew up, they were predicting ice ages by now. And I know people say, oh, well, this is weather. It's not climate. It's two different things. They can't even tell you the weather tomorrow. And I promise you, in the 1970s, I can remember, I was a big fan of Star Trek, and Leonard Nimoy doing a thing on a bridge in the cold sleet going, oh, it's going to be an ice age in 30 years. And now it's all about global warming. So they don't know their arse from their elbow, basically. But for the BBC to say, well, trees are no good if we want to help the environment, it's absolute rubbish. And yet the food growers that are trying to, or the plant growers that are trying to push the climate narrative because it's good for them, all of their greenhouses have CO2 machinery to actually increase the CO2 in there to grow their plants quicker. So it's just clearly rubbish, but it is scary. It's very, very scary. And I wish... I wish people would wake up to it. I'm quite worried that they don't. A super chat before we get to Richard's slide. Thank you, gents, for the wealth of knowledge shared here and at school. That's Cruisers. Very, very much appreciated. And yeah, let's do this then, Richard. Put your slide up, sir. I'll add it to the stage and go for it.
Look, really quickly. So this is a list of, and there are more. This is a list of compounds which are essential for optimal health, and I would argue essential long-term for life, all of which, there are more, by the way, but these are the big hitters, all of which are highly bioavailable in animal proteins. Now, I'm going to click the button. I'm going to remove the ones which we cannot obtain from plants. Now, bear in mind, these are essential for life long-term, and we can survive on plants for a prolonged period of time. We see it all the time, but it is certainly not optimal. The body can store things like iron and B12, but over time, we do need to supplement with these. But I'm going to click the button. Let's see what happens to this list of essential compounds. This more than half have gone. This is what we're left in. Many of these are not found in plants at all, including vitamin A or retinol. As we know, beta-carotene is not the true form, for example. But what if and these are available between 90 and 100% in animal proteins, by the way. But what happens if we remove the compounds which are less than 50% bioavailable in plants? Are you ready for this? Less than 50% bioavailable. We've got one left. Vitamin C. And the reason for this is things like niacin or B3 is bound to niacin, pyridoxine is bound to pyridoxine glucoside, and things like folate are in the poly form and not the monoglutamate form, and so on and so forth. But the argument with things like vitamin C is that vitamin C is required less on a meat-based diet because, for a number of reasons. Vitamin C competes with GLUT4. So the glucose from GLUT4 competes with vitamin C. Therefore, when we reduce carbohydrate, our requirement for vitamin C becomes less. It's used in the conversion of non-heme iron or ferric to its ferrous state. So if we obtain iron, for example, from spinach, then we need the vitamin C there. And it's also used in carnitine synthesis. Now, we obtain carnitine from the diet, and we obtain plenty of heme iron in its true form from animal proteins. So the fact is, we require 0 plant compounds. And this is why animal proteins, especially beef, ruminant animals, are the key to optimal health. And you know, this isn't pushing an agenda of being keto or carnivore against vegan and vegetarian. This is a fact. You know, if you are a vegan or vegetarian listening to this and you are looking to incorporate more, you know, what I would say to this is that there are a number of misconceptions in regards to vegan and vegetarian lifestyles. You know, there are 3 reasons why somebody would become vegan or vegetarian, and lots of my clients are either vegan or have been vegan, by the way. So I'm not against, you know, I'm not here to pick holes, but the healthiest way to live, we want to improve our health and well-being, and we do this through animal proteins. We can't obtain these nutrients from plant compounds. Another reason is the environment. Well, a true regenerative farming it sequesters the carbon. It's carbon negative, or in fact, yeah, it is carbon negative, and it's the healthiest way forward for the environment. And it causes less animal deaths, believe it or not. And I'm not going to get into an argument with any vegans. I want to pop questions. This is a fact. And Stephen and I have proven it several times. More animal deaths, up to 21 times more animal deaths occur from a vegan lifestyle compared to that living a strict lion carnivore-based lifestyle. So a true vegan is a carnivore. You know, the 3 reasons why somebody would choose to do this, these are the same reasons why I'm carnivore. We need these compounds. We need these compounds for optimal health. And I think it's one thing to live the lifestyle devoid of these nutrients as, you know, as a person. But once we start to feed our children these compounds, which are full of toxic compounds, phytoalexins, plant toxins, which we can get into next week, which is part of my presentation. I actually went through the level of nuts and seeds, for example, it would take to kill somebody. The amount of spinach and how damaging broccoli is, and all of these other compounds, and the tea, coffee, so on and so forth. And maybe we can get into this in the school group, but that is the fact that these compounds are very low in nutrients, but they contain high levels of toxic compounds. And animal proteins quite literally contain everything to build and heal and repair the human body.
Excellent answer. Excellent answer. Right, here we go. Bride's biscuit. I removed all carbs and, by extension, oxalates, and ostensibly to manage kidney stones. What do you make of animal proteins and increased uric acid or decreased citrate levels? I mean, uric acid, and this is from a decade of doing blood tests, I would have people with high uric acid and no gout, and I would have people with low uric acid and lots of gout. There did seem to be no correlation between uric acid levels and gout. That was definitely one of the things. I saw more gout with people that ate a lot of fruit, especially the vegans. And don't forget, uric acid is a powerful antioxidant, because we have lower levels of vitamin C, which we don't need, because for millions of years we had the GLU enzyme switched off, so we can't use and utilize vitamin C, but we weren't the only animal that happened to. So I wouldn't worry about uric acid at all. And the decreased citrate levels I wouldn't worry about, because you're alluding to the acidity, the alleged acidity of the animal proteins. But don't forget that amino acids are actually brilliant at managing our acidity, because they can donate and accept protons. All amino acids pretty much can do this. So that helps with your acid base, your pH in your body. And actually carbohydrates, the glycolysis system, I know you've cut yours out, but just for other people, that produces more acid in the body than anything else, because if 4 steps in the Krebs cycle, you get carbon dioxide, and of course once that mixes with water, you get carbonic acid. So I think that's what I think. Well, what do you think, Richard?
Yeah, look, I agree. This is a reoccurring thing, and it's a big topic within the carnivore community. Meat, the hypothesis is that the meat consumption will increase purines, but purines are created from the breakdown of cells for energy, ATP, GTP, DNA, RNA. So this happens countless amounts of times, but purines do not cause gout. 5 to 10 times more created from the body than we get from the diet. It can be increased by purines, but as you say, uric acid exists in normal joints. It is an antioxidant, and most of this is excreted by the kidney through the proximal convoluted tube anyway. So it's when we look at things like fructose is one of the biggest contributors. Things like alcohol, fruit, vegetables, grains. Grains contain fructans. Fructans break down into fructose, so they can contribute to gout and kidney stones and so on and so forth. The oxalates, also from spinach and kale, and these compounds will bind to calcium. In fact, most of turmeric, cocoa powder, all of these are huge contributing factors. 75+% of kidney stones are caused by oxalate binding to calcium. So I'm not concerned with animal proteins. That isn't going to be a problem. You can offset or help improve the oxalate detox pathways by adding in potassium citrate. Potassium citrate has a high affinity and can help alleviate any oxalate detoxing symptom. You can use other compounds like calcium, because obviously calcium will bind to it also. But I'm not a fan of supplementing calcium, as many of you will know. There are situations in which calcium supplementation is beneficial, but I'm not a fan of excessively high levels of calcium from any source. But potassium citrate, high affinity, so that can help alleviate most of those symptoms.
Brilliant. Well, we've only got 4 minutes left. And so, Richard, is it good to be back?
Always good to be back.
Yes. If we didn't get to your question...
With my blue light.
Yes. If we didn't get to your question, do apologize. We try to answer every single one in a really big way rather than just give you a very short answer. So if we didn't get to you, do apologize. I put a link in the school, in the chat for the school group if you want to come and join us. We're still getting some nice support on the super chat. So Michael, thank you very much. $4.99. Thanks, gents. Quality information. So if you're on YouTube and you don't want to follow us on school, then we will see you next week here in State Control Britain, and it will be 7 p.m. I hope a few people didn't miss this because we put our clocks back this morning, however you want to look at it, as the day tripped over. So some people might have missed this, but I'm glad you all checked in. I think the big thing there was the thing about uric acid that comes up time and time again, but it's just, like you say, fruit is the biggest problem with gout, and fructose is just a thing. And I had that time and time again when I used to work one-to-one with people and do rehab. So many people got rid of their gout by taking the fruit out, but they just won't believe me because fruit's good for you.
Yeah, 100%. And sorry, go on.
Go on, I thought you were going to say something.
Yeah, look, there's another factor to this as well, and it's to do with the glyphosate, which is sprayed on, which blocks the shikimate pathway, which helps or blocks fructose absorption. So basically it leads to fructose accumulation. So the fructans, the fructose, when we consume the grains and the fruits that have been sprayed with these herbicides, then it blocks the detox pathway. So it's it's just further compounded.
Yeah. But it's so good to have you back, and I think everyone seemed to like that. So we will be logging off YouTube now, and we'll be going over to school and joining our community there. I hope you can come and join us.
See you there. Thank you, Steve.